We are beginning Torah Yudchet in Likutey Moharan, Torah number 18. And this Torah is called Kartalita. Kartalita is the Aramaic word for a box or a basket. And we're going to see how that fits into this Torah. But this Torah is based on this story that Rabbi Yonatan in the Gemara and Baba Batra recounted. So what's the story? So Rabbi Nachman begins the Torah with the story from the Gemara that Rabbi Yonatan recounted. Rabbi Yonatan Mishtai. Zimnacha dahavaka azlina bisfinta v'chazena nahu kartalita. Dahavo mikbe'e ba'avanim tovot u'margaliot. V'hadrila mine dechavre demikre birsha. Nachid bara morai la'atuye urgash. Uvai denish miteh le'atme. Uzrak zika dechala u'nechat. Nefak brat kala ve'amar. Ma yitlechu ba'adei kartalita detvitu de Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Da'atida l'shadya tchelta bah le'tzadike le'alma de'ate. So that's the story. So what does it mean? What's going on here? Rabbi Yonatan related that one time they were traveling by ship and they saw this basket, that's the Kartalita, that had these jewels and pearls were set in the basket. These jewels and these pearls. Okay? Surrounding it, they saw surrounding the basket or surrounding this treasure box. That's what it is, right? It's a treasure box that has these jewels and these pearls set in it. They saw these fish that were surrounding it. These fish that are called birsha were surrounding it. So they saw the birsha fish surrounding the treasure box. So what did they do? They had a diver that went down, a deep sea diver went down to retrieve the treasure box. And then he sensed that one of the fish was trying to cut off his thigh of the diver. So he threw a flask of vinegar at the fish, and the vinegar, the fish, the vinegar is a strong smell, and the fish fled when he threw this flask of vinegar at it. And then there was this batko, this heavenly voice that went out and proclaimed, "What have you to do with this treasure box, with this basket? Why? What do you mean? What do you have to do with it? What's the problem?" Basically, there's a problem that they're trying to take this treasure box, and in heaven, in Shemaim, they didn't want them to take the treasure box. And that's why it was being guarded by these birsha fish. And one of the fish was even going to cut off the thigh of the diver because he was trying to retrieve it. So what's the problem? So the heavenly voice said that this basket, this treasure box, belongs to the wife of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, that one day she will store in it Techeilet, right? Techeilet is the wool that is used for the tzitzit, the Techeilet, the blue wool, for the tzaddikim in the world to come. So this is the treasure box that the wife of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, she was appointed, she had the responsibility, she had this special treasure box of the blue wool that is used for the tzitzit, and she's going to provide the tzaddikim, this blue wool for the tzitzit in the world to come. Very interesting story. So Rabbi Nachman is going to explain to us. First of all, let's see what the Rashbam, the commentary of the Rashbam on that Gemara is. So Rashbam says, Kartalita argaz. Argaz is a box. The mikre birsha, the fish that were called birsha, kach shemo, that's the name of it, of the type of fish. Bara morai, what's the bara morai? It's a diver. Adam sheyodea lashut b'mayim, a man that knows how to dive into the water, the deep waters. Beidna Bae de nishmete le'atma, says the Rashbam, shebikesh lachtoch yerecho. He wanted to cut off his thigh, sever his thigh, that birsha fish. Izrak lechala, he threw the chala at the fish, which chala here is not chala that we do on Shabbos, it's not with a hay, it's with an aleph. In Aramaic, chala means vinegar, chometz, ubarach merecho layam. Because of the smell of the vinegar, the birsha fish fled. Lemishde that she eventually will keep within it. Lemishde she will keep in it, she will hide in it, she will store in it the Techeilet for the tzaddikim. That's what Rashbam says. Lemishde lahatzniya bo, to store in it the Techeilet for the tzaddikim in the world to come. So now let's go back to the beginning of the story and let's see how Rabbi Nachman is going to explain to us all these parts of the story and what is the point. What is Rabbi Nachman going to teach us in this story? Rabbi Yochanan Mishtai, Zin nacha dehave kazdena bisvinta v'chazena ha'u Kartalita. Rabbi Yonatan Mishtai, Rabbi Yonatan related that once they were traveling by ship and they saw this treasure chest, this treasure case in the sea, and it had these jewels and pearls set in it. So says Rabbi Nachman, Da, ki lechol davar yesh tachlit. No. And this is the foundation of what he's going to say, that everything in the world, everything in existence, everything in the universe has a purpose. It has a goal. It has a final stage. That everything that is going through, all of the stages that it's going through, are prerequisites in order to eventually get to this final goal, to this final state of perfection. And that's the purpose why it was created. So everything in the world, everything in the universe has a certain purpose, a certain goal, why it was created. And that goal, for why it's created, has another goal, meaning has another purpose. Every purpose has another purpose. And it's kind of like the idea of Shabbat. We know that Shabbat is 1/60th of the world to come. Every Shabbat is 1/60th of the world to come. And so Shabbat, every Shabbat that we have, every 7 days, the seventh day is always the Shabbat, and every Shabbat is on a small scale the next world, the world to come. And that means that every Shabbat, every seventh day of the week, is a tachlit. It's the fulfillment of the purpose of the 6 days that preceded it. And then after that, there's another purpose. And that's why you have the 7th year is like the Shabbat of all the Shabbatot of the 6th year, of the 6 years that preceded it. Because every purpose leads to a greater purpose. So there's a purpose on a small scale. Okay, and there's kind of like a checkpoint along the way where you fulfill a certain part of the purpose, or you fulfill the purpose in a certain way, in a certain aspect of it, in a certain level, but that leads to the fulfillment of the purpose in a greater way. So that's why you have the 6 years that lead to the 7th year, the Shemitah, which is like a Shabbat of all the Shabbatot of all the years that came before it. And then all of those 7 years lead to the Yovel, the 50th year, which is the Shabbat of all the Shemitahs that came before it. And eventually all the Yovels, which is all of the 50th year, they will all lead to the next world, Alma De'ati, Olam Haba, which is the Shabbat of all the Yovels, the final purpose. And even that, the Mekubalim explain, is not really the end of the story, and there's many, many levels and many, many stages of the world to come. And so that's what Rabbi Nachman is saying here, that everything in the world was created for a certain purpose. But even that purpose that it was created for is only one step along the way, and that purpose was created for another purpose. So there's a greater purpose. So says Rabbi Nachman, every one of these purposes leads to a greater purpose. And he brings a what it's comparable to, he gives us a way of understanding this from the physical world. He says, "Lemashal, tachlit binyan habayit kidei sheyeh le'adam makom lanuach." The purpose of building a house, what's the purpose? Why does a person want to build a house? It's in order that he has a place, he has a environment that he can sleep in, a place that he can sleep in. He has protection, he has safety, he has security. He can keep his things safe and secure. He himself can be safe and secure. He can sleep there, he can sit there, he can eat there. He's protected from the rain, from the winds. Okay, that's one purpose of why you build a house. But the purpose of being able to rest in his house, what's the reason why he wants that safety? Why he wants the ability to sit in a house, to stay in a house, to be protected by a house, and to sleep in that house? It's in order, it's in order that with that safety, with that security, with the ability to sleep well and to have a roof over your head gives you a certain sense of security. Now you can serve Hashem in a greater way, in a better way. Now you're not bothered all the time protecting yourself from the environment, from the winds, from the storms, from the rain, from finding a way to sleep, finding a place to sleep. You don't have to worry about that. So all of that energy can be channeled in serving Hashem in a better way. So you're conserving your energy, you're protecting yourself, you have a proper place to sleep, so that now you can serve Hashem in a greater way. So you would say, therefore, from this example Rabbi Nachman gave us, that the purpose of building the houses so that you have a place to sleep, and you're protected from the environment, you have a certain sense of security. But the purpose of that also has a purpose. The purpose of having that sense of security and having a place to sleep is so that now you can aspire, you can serve Hashem in greater ways, right? It's like Maslow's pyramid, the hierarchy of the physical needs. There are certain needs, the basic human needs, that once they are fulfilled, then a person needs to expand their consciousness. A person needs to learn and educate themselves, and they can focus in higher states and higher goals. And so that's the next level. The purpose of the fulfillment of the basic human needs is so that you can fulfill the needs, the higher needs, and the higher levels of the hierarchy of needs of a person. And the purpose, the goal of anything is more connected to the original thought and intention than from which the particular goal was derived. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means that initially, when something is created, you have the final goal in mind when you want to create that thing, when you want to build that thing. You don't have all of the goals along the way. You have the final goal in mind. And so Rabbi Nachman says that final goal is more connected to the initial intention than all of the goals along the way. Because when that house is built and you have a finished product, that finished product is more related, it's more similar to what I had in my mind, in my initial intention, than all of the stages I had along the way. Along the way, throughout the process of building this house, there were times that I was thinking about the living room, there were times I was thinking about the kitchen, there were times I was thinking about building and what type of tiles I'm going to use in the kitchen, and what type of furniture after everything is built and the cabinets are built and everything is right. And then we think about the furniture, we think about the appliances, what type of fridge, what type of oven, all of the table, and so all of these things that are filling my mind during the process of building this house are not resembling my initial intention, what I had initially when I wanted to build this house, as much as when the house is completely built, completely finished, and I'm sitting there on the couch and I'm enjoying this peaceful environment, this nice, safe, secure home that I built for myself. Now this what I'm experiencing right now, the purpose, the goal fulfilled, is very similar. It's almost identical, probably identical to what I had in my mind initially, why I created this house, why I started this whole process. And so that's what we're saying here, that the tachlit, the purpose, the final goal, the end goal, when that's fulfilled, it's very similar, it's identical to the initial goal. And it's connected to the initial intention much more than all of the things that filled my head, all of the things that we were seeing throughout the process. Okay, and there's a reason for that. So says Rabbi Nachman, ותכלית של כל דבר הוא מחובר להמחשבה והשכל יותר מהדבר שזה התכלית בא ממנו. וקרוב התכלית להמחשבה בקירוב יותר מהדבר, כי סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Because there's a big rule, we have this rule in Kabbalah, and the Midrashim, and the Zohar, and the Talmud, that sof maaseh, the final state of any deed, of any action, is connected. It was originally intended. It is what was initially intended. It is what was originally intended. Sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. The final state of the fulfillment of a goal was what filled my intention initially. Sof maaseh, the final action, the final state in the physical dimension, b'machshava tchila, was the first state in the dimension of thought, of intention, of consciousness. Again, this Kabbalistically is represented by the secret that we know, the rule that the malchut of every world is made up of 10 sfirot, and the final sphere of each world is the malchut, and the malchut of each world, the malchut of each world, it becomes the keter of the keter, it becomes the highest of the world that comes after that. And so the malchut is very connected to the keter. This is also a rule that we see in Kabbalah in the Sefer Yetzirah. There's a rule in Kabbalah that na'at sofan betchilatan, that the end of the sfirot is connected, is combined with, united with the beginning of the sfirot. And that's exactly what we're saying, because we know that malchut is action. Malchut is the complete fulfillment, the complete manifestation of any process is called the malchut of that process. And the keter is the initial intention. It's the beginning of the intention before something is created. It's the first stage, the first state of the process of creation is the keter. And so when you say sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila, the end of the action is in the beginning of the intention, what you're saying really is that the malchut is combined with the keter. Okay, and so that's how you would say it Kabbalistically. And so that's what Rabbi Nachman is speaking about here. כי סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. נמצא שהסוף והתכלית היא תחילה במחשבה וקרוב לה, therefore, the end and the fulfilled goal was first in thought, it was first in intention and close to it. And from that goal, from that intention, clear intention, when the intention is clear in your mind, in that state, it's absolutely clear, all the details of that intention and everything involved in it and everything included in it. So then the action, the rest of the process evolves naturally. Okay, and this is very, very important. A lot of people, if they knew this spiritual law, the power of intention, then they would have so much more success in their life, in material success and in spiritual success. This is basically the difference between the way people think things work in the world and between the way things actually work. People usually think that in order to make something happen in the world, they need to use force. They need to strategize. They need to figure out how to manipulate the physical aspects of reality using the physical laws of reality, cause and effect in the physical plane. And because of that, they spend so much energy trying to figure this all out. And once they figure it out, then they spend so much energy trying to actually manipulate people, places, and things in order to manifest this in the physical realm using the laws of the physical reality. But the truth is that things don't work that way. Okay? And the truth is that things work a lot simpler in every dimension. Things work through power, meaning things work through the spiritual innate power that is found within our consciousness. That means that if we were to focus our consciousness and our awareness to get a clear picture of our intention and have that intention absolutely clear with all of the specifics and all of the details, and have that intention fill our consciousness to a point where it is real in our consciousness. So basically, you're looking at the machshava tchila that we're just speaking about, and in that machshava tchila, you're making sure that the sof maaseh, the actual final state, how it looks in the outside world, how you want it to look eventually in the outside physical world, is now to be found in your initial intention with all of the dimension and all of the details and all of the qualities that it's intended to be found eventually in the physical plane. Meaning that if there is on this house, you want a certain type of doorknob, and you want that doorknob on the front door or on the door, the bedroom door, to look in a certain way and to feel a certain way, okay? And to be at a certain height. And you want the door around it to look a certain way. All of these details should be in your intention. So an absolutely clear intention, using all the parts of reality, all the qualities of reality, to be clearly found in that initial state, in the machshava tchila. And then everything else will move naturally. And that's power versus force. Instead of using force, which is basically what people do, you forcing things in the physical reality, using the laws of nature as they seem to be experienced in the physical reality, because laws of nature are not really what people perceive to be the laws of nature, are not really the laws of nature. It's just an illusion, what seems to be that way from the physical plane. But in the spiritual plane, things work a lot differently, and that's what Kabbalah shows us. That this is not really the purpose of Kabbalah. The purpose of Kabbalah is to teach us how we may use this to serve Hashem in greater ways, in better ways, right? So if a person has a clear intention in their mind of what it feels like when Mashiach is here, what is the type of life that I'm going to be living, and how am I going to be serving Hashem? How am I going to be praying? How am I wanting to pray? Having all of those aspects clear in their intention. Seeing themselves already praying in that way, or learning Torah. How do I want to set up my day so that I'm learning a certain amount of Torah every day? How does my day look? How do I look? How do I feel? How do I experience my life living with such a daily schedule of learning Torah every day and praying to Hashem every day in a certain way? How does my meditation look, feel? How is it experienced? All of these things that a person wants to achieve in their life, in fulfillment of Torah and mitzvot, fulfilling the mitzvot of Hashem, learning Torah in better ways, learning more Torah, praying in better ways, praying more, whatever it is, you can use your power of intention to shift to that version of yourself that is living, that is experiencing this connection with Hashem and this fulfillment, and is in alignment with the fulfillment of the Torah and mitzvot on this level. And so it's a very important rule, but that's not the main point here that Rabbi Nachman is teaching us. The main point, what he wants us to know, is that everything in the world has a purpose, and that purpose has a purpose, and the final purpose of everything is one. It's the same that was found in the initial intention. Okay, in the machshava tchila. נמצא שהסוף והתכלית הוא תחילה במחשבה וקרוב לה, ומהתכלית נשתלשל המעשה. It comes from this that the end, the fulfillment of the goal, is close, it's one with, it's similar, it's identical with the initial intention, and because that purpose, that final purpose was in the initial intention, so that is where it's drawn from. It evolves from there. למשל, כשעולה במחשבה לבנות לו בית, בוודאי הבית אינו נבנה בבת אחת, אלא צריך להכין עצים ולצטט ולבנות כל עץ ועץ לפי צורכו. For example, when a person wants to build a house for himself, he has an intention to build a house. So the house is not built in one time, in one instance. It's not automatically built. What happens is, first you have to prepare the wood, okay, and then each piece of wood and lumber has to be cut out and put and planned in the proper place where it's going to be fitting in the house, in the whole project. And then when you put all of the pieces together and you build them together, all of those stages, then finally, after all of those stages are fulfilled, then you have a house that's completely built. נמצא שלמות הבית שהיא תכלית הבניין וסופו, היה במחשבה תחילה, נמצא שהתכלית הוא קרוב למחשבה ויותר מהתחלת המעשה. So it comes from here that the completed home, right, the finished project and its end stage is exactly what was originally in my intention. And so that's what we're saying here, that the tachlit is close to the initial intention more than the beginning of the maaseh. The beginning of the maaseh, the beginning of the action, and the process of action, the process of creating, of building in action was gathering the wood, for example, or building the foundations. It had nothing to do with this completely, it's very, very different than what I had in my initial intention, than the picture I had in my initial intention. So what is the stage and the action in the world of action, in the dimension of the physical manifestation that is the most similar to what I had in my initial intention? That's the final stage of the dimension, in the dimension of the physical manifestation. When you have the complete house in front of you, completely built in the physical reality, that you can point to and say, oh, you see, this is identical, this is exactly what I had. This is the most similar to what I had in my initial intention. All the other stages from the beginning of the process in the physical dimension of building the house to the end of it, no other stage was similar or identical to my initial intention than this final stage. Okay, and that's the end of part 1 in this Torah, and we'll see the continuation of this in the next class, in the next year, Be'ezrat Hashem.